Have 10 minutes? Here are some chair stretches that you can try for your next at-home workout. One of the ultimate hip stretches is going to be the figure 4 stretch. You can do this 2 different ways. Typically, I like to sit at the edge of my chair. From here, I'm going to keep my leg, I'm going to take one leg, put that over the top of that knee. Okay, as you can see, it's going to be kind of like a 4. Okay, with that, I'm going to lean forward. Typically, you have 3 points. We have our foot, we have our shin, and we have our knee. So for me, I'm going to spend about 5 to 10 seconds leaning towards my foot. From there, I'm going to come up. I'm going to lean towards my shin for another 5 to 10 seconds. It is going to target a different area of that glute. Come back up, and then leaning towards my knee. Okay? All 3 of these do target different areas of that glute and hip flexor, so it is important to still target each of these accordingly. And again, I will spend 5 to 10 seconds per point. So again, my foot, my shin, my knee, and then even from there, that might be 1 set, and I might do 5 of those. There's also a great stretch from this position you can go into, which is going to be taking that hand, putting it on the outside part of that foot, rotating the body, turning, keeping our chest open, and transitioning going into that opposite side. Next we have a torso twist, which you're going to take your hand, put that right across your knee, trying to keep that arm straight. Other hand's going to go on the edge of that chair. With it, we want to keep our chest out, good broad shoulders, and we're just going to rotate and turn our chest away from our knees. So imagine we think of it like we're wringing out a washcloth. That is going to be the same with our body. We want to turn our chest one way, we want to turn our knees the other way, so that in turn will create a nice stretch into the mid to low part of our back. Here's a dynamic warm-up stretch. You can take your opposite hand, put that on the edge of the chair. With my hand, I can keep this on my hip, I can keep it out, but the main goal is when we do this, you want to start low, kind of warm your way up into going into a higher kick. Ideally, we're keeping that leg as straight as you can. You will be getting a stretch through the hamstring, through the glute, as well as through the back. So with it, the more you get height-wise, the more stretch you'll feel in the hamstring, calf, all throughout the back side of that leg, okay? So with that, your goal overall is going to be between 20 to 30 leg lifts. So 1, 2, going up to about 20, switch that up. Opposite direction, obviously, same side, different, but opposite. Start warm, nice and low, okay, and work your way up into a higher kick as you progress into that set of 20. You can also repeat that per side, 3 to 5 rounds. A good hip mobility exercise. Typically, I would do this if my kickstands or my feet of my chair were stable, but if they're not, totally fine as well. You want to make sure that you do have a strong base for this. So when we do this, I'm going to keep my hands on the outside parts of that chair. From here, I'm just going to keep my hips down and pretty much just go into a squat. Okay? From that position, you can see my hips are back, my knees are behind my toes, my hands are holding the chair for a little bit of balance help. Okay? I can come right back into that. Okay? From that position, I can do several things. I can go back into another repetition, which typically I would try to shoot for about 10. But for me in this instance, my goal is just to open up my hips, open up my back. So I'm going to be holding at the bottom, okay, for about 5 seconds at a time. Opening my knees, keeping my knees nice and wide here. So I have a good base. My toes are actually pointed out slightly like a V. Okay, coming back up. Again, I'm going to do about 5 of these through the course of this period, but my goal is between 3 and 5 seconds every time, okay? Again, my goal is just to open up the hips. So when I'm doing that, I'm forcing my hips back, my knees out, so I'm getting more focus and mobility in my inner groin, okay? So that's also going to be one of the great ways to just open up the hips in general and to loosen up yourself in the morning. One of my favorite stretches to start out with, I like to take my hands, I keep them right at the very far edge of that chair. From there, I'm going to push my hips back, applying slight pressure down through my palms. From here, I can bring my chest closer to the ground, relax, take a break, go back into that same stretch, push my chest into the ground. As you can see, my back is straight. We do want to be in a high position like so. I do want to push that hip down, keeping my back as neutral as possible. With my hands, I do want to keep my arms straight here, so we don't have too much of a bend in that elbow. I purposely want to keep that straight, so we're getting a good stretch through that lat. We're getting good stretch through the abdomen, as well as all through the mid to low back, which is considered your QL, which is one of the main areas that gets tight from sitting all day or just constant. From there, we could also take that same stretch and just do it with one side. One thing, I would like to take that hand, put that right in the center of that chair. I can take my body, I'm leaning with my hip, angling backwards. From here, again, I'm keeping this arm straight. I'm trying to pull down through that rib and in through that core. So right here, I'm gonna get a stretch through my lat, as well as a stretch through my tricep, okay? If I pull my hip back enough, I can also get in through that QL again from whatever side I'm leaning to. So if I'm leaning to the right, I pull my right hip back so I can get a little bit more engagement all through that whole right side of the body. So since we did it with that hand, we're obviously gonna go with this opposite hand, keep that nice and symmetrical, but again, my arms straight, I'm pulling down with my chest towards the floor, keeping my back straight, hips back, my feet are just outside my shoulders, so I have a nice wide base and a wide stance. Okay, I can come up, take a little break, go back down into that same stretch. Again, I would